Hello everyone, this is Pharaoh Vincent with Nation 473, and I'm going to start today's video with a quick definition. So when I'm talking about a gummy bear of a city, I'm speaking more about having a certain amount of troops below a certain tier, in this case, technically some tier 6, some tier 5, and some tier 4 troops, and lower, that in essence act as a buffer to prevent you from having any additional, I'm not going to say losses, because it doesn't really prevent extra losses. What it prevents is your enemies to getting to your troops that give points up in events. And I'm going to pick on a player that we hit. I mean, as you can see from this battle report, this gentleman has 7.8 million troops. And when you look at the actual troop composition, you're going to notice a classic gummy bear, right? He's got a lot of troops, kind of tier 4 and lower. This guy also has a lot of other tier troops. I don't know why. That's not needed. But let's talk about how to do this effectively. And let's also talk about, a little bit about the pros and the cons of this particular strategy. And so while I kind of talk, I'm going to leave this up just so you guys can kind of see. The big, benefit of what I lovingly refer to as the gummy bear is around trying to prevent point loss. So if your city gets hit in a void, a frenzy, I mean, even chaos lands to some degree, the amount of points you give up is directly proportional to the tier of the troop. In specifically the first two, right, voids and frenzies, any troops that are tier 4 and lower give 0 points, both in attack and defense, which means they're 100% effective, right? Anything that they get, it is an immediate effect, right? So for this particular individual, all of these kills that you see here from these units that are T4 and lower, those are all, generating positive points for their nation, right? The problem with those troops is they're, not as good. So that's kind of the premise of creating the gummy bear. So let's talk about why you would do this, right? If you are getting to the place where you have so many troops that you can't possibly hide them all, and you cannot bear the thought of either intentionally losing some in a frenzy by fighting until they die, or sorry, not frenzy, avoid, or you don't want to basically use them to go hunt down kills, and who cares about the losses? You have too many troops anyways, right? That's like option number 1, my preferred option personally. Option number 2, where you literally can go in and delete them, right? Like if you go into any troop type inside your city, you can go in here, and this button right here underneath the troop card, right under that count right here, allows you to instantly disband a troop. And so you could just slide the bar over and delete as many as you feel like. And those do not create losses on your city, so it prevents, most specifically, this number for losses from going up. But then there's the last element of this, which is, well, what if you don't want to get rid of them? What you really are looking for then is to what I refer to as gummy bear. So we'll pull this report back up just to have this on screen. But really, the crux of this is you want to make sure that you are in a space where you're winning most of your fights. If you were losing fights, this strategy will not benefit you whatsoever. In fact, it can cause more detriment than good. So this player is not one that I'd recommend gummy bearing, mostly because, their attack percentages are low, right? 400% LRA is not enough to be a gummy bear, right? You kind of want to be upper middle class, if you will, and a pretty strong city. Because if a C-38 hits this guy, they could probably take all of their troops by themselves and have relatively low losses with a good enough city. So, it's one of those things where it is a double-edged sword. It opens you up to more risk because now that you can't hide your troops, that means if you get caught, there's nothing you can do to stop that battle from happening. Once you're in a battle, you're in the battle. And it's up to whether or not you win or lose depending on what happens. So that's kind of the catch-22 within what it is that you're moving into. If you're interested in this, if you're looking to go forward, just know that there's a risk. And that risk is if you lose, you will lose more good units than if you didn't have them in the first place. And that's just because of the way your hospital fills up. It's going to fill up equally over all of those. So if you have 100,000 tier 10 troops and 100,000 tier 4 troops and your hospital capacity is only 100,000, you're going to have at the end of the day 50,000 tier 10s, 50,000 tier 4s, and you're going to lose 100,000 troops or 50,000 of each of those, right? And so at that point, you're just going to have the same thing. You're going to have 50-50, which is what you started with, but now you have, a lot more garbage units than you did before. Your ratio is kind of off. Okay, so, and again, this is a battle where you can see what it is and that I'm talking about, right? In this case, it's a frenzy, and this guy straight down the middle loses 50% of all of his good troops. And that's after one hit, right? So you can see at the beginning of this, they're at almost 8 million troops. They end at just a little bit over 4 after one hit. So that is the risk, is losing as a gummy bear. What happens if you win? The way the game's coded is that the lowest tier troop dies first in combat. So if you were to win that fight, let's say we never even crashed through his melee, we would have only dealt damage to these lower tier troops first, because we have to go through all of these troops down here before we can go into the troop type above that, right? We have to be able to go through every single troop in that lower tier before we can go to the tier above it. And we go through that basically tier by tier, unit by unit. So if we kill all of his axes, we have to go through all of the tier 1 axes, all the way up to the tier 2 axes, 4 axes, right? 6 and so on. And so that's how that works, right? You're basically busting through barriers. So that is the start of why you're doing this. It's point prevention. Your city's going to get hit. You already can't hide your troops, so you might as well protect them somehow. And you're going to use these units that only cost oil and food, which you probably have a ton of by now if you're considering this. You're going to use those lower tier cheap units. The other kind of cool benefit is they're actually super, super quick to heal. You're looking at 24 hours of healing for 300k units versus like with tier 10s that's going to take you a week, right? So like the healing time is massively reduced, which is kind of nice. It also adds a little bit of a buffer for if you get hit with an SOS and exterminate and slaughter are in effect, because what's going to happen is if they lose the fight, they're only going to deal damage to the lowest tier troop, and your good units are going to be protected from the SOS and slaughter. So that's the other benefit of having them. There's one last one, which is in both frenzies and voids, you can reinforce with tier 4 units and not have anything to worry about. You can get your Titans out, you can get your warplane out, and you can actually get some free kills with these, units that don't give up points, which is kind of nice, and it helps you to win these events. So that's all the benefits. If you're really looking to become a gummy bear, the way I recommend starting is actually in your melee. And I would recommend getting at least as many, if not double, the amount of troops you have in each category. So I'll double the Titan infantry for me, be like, what, 270,000, right? I'd be looking to hit that number of I believe it's 3 Titan infantry, right? And same thing with the tanks, same thing with the shredders, right? You're looking to get that double number. For those keenly aware, the lowest tier unit you can get out of the workshop is tier 5 and tier 6. So if you are looking to Gummybear, you will have to settle for the tier 6 armored infantry. Yes, they do give points. However, they give less points than they do at the higher tiers. So it is good to have them. Again, the same concept applies. And then when it comes to your actual combat troops, I like to do at least 50% to equal. And the reason being is, if you're doing this tactic, you want to make sure that you have enough melee in your city that you're never going to lose. Because if they bypass your melee, you are screwed. You're going to lose a lot. It's not going to be fun. You're going to be rebuilding for months, and you're going to have a bunch of garbage tier units you didn't want. So that's why I do recommend that heavy frontline focus, because those are the units that are going to get hit no matter what you do. Whereas with the rest of the units, they're mainly getting hit by special abilities. They're getting hit by destructive rays from Titans. They're getting hit by, Emperor's Tails and things like that. So it's a lot harder for them to be reduced down below that half mark, where you get through half of the units. And so that's why equaling it is pretty good. The other recommendation with this is, do not bother with zombies. Your zombies should never be on defense. And if you're defending another city, you could, if you really want to, get the tier 4s and put them in there so that you can get this really cool ability right here, which, reduces Titan damage and all the other benefits that you get from having the zombies. There are benefits. However, I don't know that the juice is worth the squeeze, because zombies are limited in how much you can recruit, and they're really hard to recruit. It's up to you. I'm going to let you make your own decisions there. I personally would not do it, though. And that's kind of the whole video. So let me know what you guys think down below. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if there's anything that I missed. Again, I personally do not recommend this for everyone. I don't do this, but I know that there are players out there who do, and it is an effective strategy. I just don't feel strong enough to pull it off myself. But if you guys, have any experience with this, let me know what you think. And again, thank you so much for all your support, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.